Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Today is Saturday, June 3rd, and today we are talking about War Eagles Air Museum, their many features, exhibits, ones I've known for years, but also some of their new things, new programming, and their upcoming summer program, getting into all those details there. So, of course, you can find us on air, online, live streaming on KTSMradio.com, and with full video on the El Paso History Radio Show Facebook page and YouTube channel, as well as other similar pages, and well as Twitter and Twitch.tv, and of course over on some of our partner pages, including the great Facebook group Remember in El Paso When, and this is the place where we say Texas history begins in El Paso. We do have a history moment today at the top of hour 2 from documentary filmmaker Jackson Polk, but joining us here in studio today, we do have, from my left to right, we do have Vanessa Martinez, the Executive Director, Dominique Clark, the Marketing Director, and Elliott Werner, the docent/volunteer with War Eagles Air Museum. Thank you all very much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Andrew, for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you all very much for coming in, because, well, we certainly have had you all on the show in years past. Not since my time on here, and not since, let's just say, things have begun opening up more. People have been more willing to go out and do things. So wanted to take this opportunity to have you all on, because you also have some interesting programming going on. But for those, and there's always someone, when I describe that great museum out on the mesa near that airport out that way that has all these features, there's invariably someone, maybe not in the more history-attuned part of our audience, but someone that's saying, wait, what is that? What? There's a bunch of planes where? You're not talking about that boneyard out toward Arizona. No, this is the museum. So when it comes to, for y'all, describing what the museum is, for someone that, if you manage to find one of those people that has no idea, or maybe you've heard of it and never truly gotten into it, how do you all describe and get into what is War Eagles Air Museum?
So we're an aviation museum down to the core. We're located at the Doña Ana County International Jetport, as you mentioned, which is technically in Santa Teresa, New Mexico, or right outside of El Paso. So we actually house an incredibly historic collection of rare aircraft. We have 35 aircraft and 55 automobiles in a 65,000 square foot hangar. So one of the things people are actually most surprised about is you walk in and you don't expect it to be quite that big. But most importantly, we like to share, the story of our founders. We were founded by John and Betty McGuire on September 13th, 1989. So we are going into our 34th anniversary this year. We're really grateful for what they did. They were philanthropists, business people, and warbird enthusiasts, which is the reason we exist.
Absolutely. And so I don't think that it can be overstated how unique and frankly lucky we are to have something like this in our region, because I mean, you see the kind of pictures that we're putting up for those on our online audience. See the full pictures over again on our social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, putting up some of the specific airplanes that you all got that we will be delving in further into. So don't worry, this isn't just a tease and then we'll never mention it again or anything like that, like a P-40 that we have an example of right now. And of course, the full hangar shot that is behind it. I mean, we're talking about the kind of thing that you would expect when, say, walking into the Air and Space Museum at the Smithsonian, or specifically one of my favorite places anytime I can get out there, like the Udvar Hazy Annex that out's near, I believe near Dulles International Airport. I mean, we're talking about your classic hangar full of historic stuff, beautifully displayed and with full explanations on it as well. So this isn't the end scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark where there's stuff but it's all just piled up. It is displayed out, and you all have, again, a lot of information and events that go on around it, right? Absolutely.
So endearingly, we like to call it the best museum you've never heard of. Myself and Dominique are actually part of that change. That management that came in, post-pandemic.
Sure.
And we're here to change that, to make it a relevant piece and to continue to preserve, the important history that we have here in El Paso.
Absolutely. So, kind of in that same vein, again, with more events happening, and frankly, people are hungry / desperate to get out and do things. So you all have some specific events coming up this year, right?
Yes. So
this month.
We actually have a big aviation summer camp coming up, and that's June 12th through the 16th. It's every day, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and that caters to children 10 to 14 years of age.
Okay. So middle school in general kind of thing.
Essentially, yes. And they're going to be it's going to be full days of various activities, building engines, doing different electrical pieces, everything having to do with aviation that you can imagine, hands-on activities, different navigation activities, different tours around KDNA, which is Doñana County International Jetport. And so, they're going to do pre-flight checks, simulator time with Red Arrow Flight Academy. We work with them a lot. They partner with us for our Flights and Sights events. So lots of fun things where they cannot experience anywhere else.
Absolutely. So this will be, again, in and around the museum. So both the historic focus, of course, but then a lot of functional. So if you were going to describe kind of who this would be, besides the age range, obviously, but kind of what interests of, kids might be best suited towards this, how would you describe that?
Well, I would say it's not just the kids interested in aviation. This is our second year doing it, and what we notice is it's kids interested in learning in general. So I wouldn't limit it to aviation. If you have a kiddo who's interested in learning how to analyze things, put things together, be hands-on, and just, there's a spark to just learn, make friends, have fun, it is for your kid. It's not just about aviation.
Absolutely. So that, again, is coming up here, as you mentioned, starting June 12th, and registration will be going on up until right about that date, right?
Yes.
Though, as we were talking a little bit before we got into the recording here, there are limited spots, so there is still an impetus to not do the standard El Paso thing of, it's 15 minutes before, I guess we should get going kind of thing.
Definitely book your spot for your camper now. You can do that via our website, or you can give us a call, purchase your tickets in-house. But I would definitely not wait. We always see for all of our events, there's this last-minute push. Unfortunately, we are not offering refunds for summer camp, so we have seen an influx in ticket purchases within the past week. So please don't wait. If that pattern continues, we definitely will not have any spots left by the time it gets here in about 9 days.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing that El Paso does, and I've been guilty of myself. So, yeah, if you're
we all do it.
Absolutely. So, if you got an interest in it and want to check it out, there again, they got the information about all the things we're going to be talking about here today. Of course, WarEaglesAirMuseum.com, and then, of course, over on your social media with some more of the features, including the Flights and Sights events they got going on over on your Facebook page, facebook.com/WarEaglesAirMuseum. So, for that one, what is that? And that's an ongoing event. Well, recurring might be the better way, I guess, to phrase it here. So what is that one then for Flights and Sights?
So that's a monthly event where we are super excited to partner with Red Arrow Flight Academy to provide the economical flight experience to families, and so they can purchase a seat on an airplane essentially and have a discovery flight, which is basically an intro flight. In it takes you across, around the west side for about 20 to 25 minutes. Okay. You can purchase one seat, which would be the co-pilot, and that's hands-on flight experience with the pilot, with the CFI. Or you can purchase a whole family, and that would be 2 passengers in the back and 1 co-pilot in the front. Co-pilot seats are $70, and passenger seats are $40. So it really is an economical way for a whole family to fly and experience, such a great and unique thing that they wouldn't be able to do outside of that.
And y'all are doing that monthly these days. When we just had the most recent one that I think was right here at the end of May. And so for this month, it'll be kind of focused on the summer camp and that progression. So the next one will be happening July 29th, right?
Yes. At 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Yes. And is that really kind of people need to also sign up, or kind of a first come, first serve kind of thing?
It is a first come, so you do need to sign up, but the tickets are first come, first serve. So the faster you purchase your tickets, the faster you save your spot.
Absolutely. So again, mentioning just some of the things going on out there, but again, I think the things I remember for having gone out there for events over various years, all the exhibits here. Elliott, how long have you been involved with the museum and been a docent and volunteer?
I'm thinking back, but 2016 is when I was asked to be part of the volunteer, the docent, and just my experience in aviation, that's how I got involved with it and go around and give tours.
So when it comes to giving the tours and just the features of it, again, there's a lot of space, a lot of aircraft, a lot of other vehicles out there as well of all stripes. And with the, of course, aircraft focus here, what are some of your favorites that you got out there?
Well, of course, we have our rock stars across the front, our P40, our TF51, and of course the F4U Corsair. Those guys are what everybody comes out and wants to see and get information on.
Certainly.
Of course, we also have our DC3 that's sitting in the back, which has true history on it, and that's what I try to explain to some of our young people coming out, that this airplane has true history, and we need to keep the history alive.
Absolutely. And so we're going to be delving into that a whole lot more through the progression of these 2 hours. But I just want to kind of give an overview in our first segment here on a lot of the topics that we have going on out there and that we have as people can go and visit it. So outside of the special events and the programming we all got, y'all do have regular hours, of course, right?
Oh, yes. We're open Wednesday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Last admission is 3:30 p.m.
Because... yeah, this is not I just want to go check out this one thing real quick. That's not how this works. You're going to get lost in there for a while, and I'm sure you don't have to go and fish out for people being like, sir, we've been closed for 3 hours. Can we please leave now?
Well, no, and the reality is it's an extensive collection.
Yeah.
There's exhibits, the aircraft, we have 55 automobiles, and so we just like to let people know, even if they do show up, a little bit past 3:30, we always welcome them to go in, but they're more than welcome to receive a voucher to come back the next business day, because we wouldn't want to limit their experience. But it's just a safe bet saying 30 minutes, you're not going to make it through in time.
Even if you didn't stop and read anything, I'd be hard pressed to go and walk by everything in 30 minutes. That would be a pretty brisk walk to get the full scope of it, because beyond the vehicles, beyond the exhibits, you got other things like on some of the uniforms, some of the different eras of history out there, and of course a gift shop that you can't neglect to mention here. So there's a lot of experiences to be had out there, and it's the kind of thing that every time I've been back, I can think at least once a decade, at the very least, since I've been a kid, I've been out there, and there's always something else that either I didn't notice or didn't have the full information on, and I'm sure that y'all are adding to and changing all along. So particularly with y'all coming in as the leadership team now and wanting to continue on both the tradition and keep things moving and moving forward. What are some of the most exciting things or things that you all are most excited about when it comes to, we got the events coming up, we got exhibits and things that you all are working on, of course, here. What would you say is the thing that, for someone who has, of course, maybe known about it, but hasn't been in a while, what would you tell them about, what they should know about the way the museum is now?
One thing I definitely want to touch on, and it's been part of Dominique's leadership and a couple other staff members that we have on full time, but the first thing you see when you walk into our museum is a gift shop, and that's been entirely renovated since our time there. Just new floors, new furniture. It looks like a completely different space and entrance, and you'd be surprised. People actually spend a lot of time in the gift shop itself before even going into the museum, because of how fun it is to look at all kinds of different trinkets and the memento of what it is. We have a lot of really unique items. It's hard for a parent who takes a child to not walk away with the flight jacket.
The flight jacket, at the very least, those ubiquitous remove before flight tags that I see on everyone who has ever flown a plane's keys, those kind of things.
Definitely, but just touching base on other basic things we've done is, we always strive to become more interactive. We want, our mission, our purpose is to exist for people of all ages to be inspired. And so we are constantly looking for things for people to touch, to play with, to find a different way to interact with our exhibit as is. So we've incorporated a couple new things. So one of our volunteers, Michael Chang, actually built an F4U landing carrier. So it's really cool. It's about a 10-foot long, made out of wood, and it allows kids to play with it. You can pull back on a little lever, and you attempt to land an airplane on a landing carrier, just like you would in real life. So we've added something like things like that. We have Chuck Yeager. We have a little gnome. He's decorated and dressed like a pilot, so we call him the Chuck Yeager gnome. And the minute you enter the museum now, you're faced with a large poster board of what he looks like, and your goal is to find him throughout the museum. And if you find him, you can let a staff member know or volunteer, and you get a free prize. So we've been doing small fun things like that. Looking forward to the grander big things. The long term is to continue to innovate, modernize, and do real things that will allow us to have modern interactives.
And the thing about Chuck Yeager, he moves throughout the hangar. He is not in the same spot every
I
time.
would expect so. Absolutely. There,
We
absolutely.
actually have families that come back every 2-3 weeks to find him again.
And I would like to mention, just to piggyback off of everything that Vanessa mentioned, before the museum was a beautiful thing to go and look at,
Sure.
but now our main goal as a team is it's more than just something to go and look at. You should come to the hangar and be a part of something. And so with every event we put on, we really strive for that. So for example, our Easter egg hunt, we had a really neat egg drop that we've never done
Right.
before, and you got to be a part of a Vietnam War bird flying over your head dropping Easter eggs, and even the parents really enjoyed that. The dads were going crazy.
It's a pretty unique one for those looking over our social media. We're talking about one of those little birds and a Easter bunny in the back of it. Double up Easter eggs.
So it's always our goal, whether it's for any event. We do Valentine's, we do the Easter, we're doing something for Halloween, we were going to do something for Christmas. We always want to make sure when you come to the hangar and to our museum as a team, we're making you feel like you were a part of something, and you leave and you want to come back to then be a part of something more, And so, yes, look at all the beautiful things, because we have a beautiful collection.
Sure.
And we love being complimented on that, but also we want you to feel something when you walk out of our doors, when you leave.
Absolutely. So that's Dominique Clark, Marketing Director. Also, of course, speaking, Vanessa Martinez, Executive Director, and Elliott Werner, Docent and Volunteer with War Eagles Air Museum. Going to continue on our conversation with them as we're going to be talking about a whole lot more of the features and getting in depth on them over the course of this next couple of hours. So stay tuned for more on the El Paso History Radio Show after this brief break on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You're listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on YouTube.com. You're listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com.
Welcome back to the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. We are, of course, the El Paso History Radio Show on Facebook. Go there for our weekly promo announcements on the program each and every week. Also, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/El Paso History TV, which also has all of the streams and previous recordings of our episodes, but also has the entire series of the El Paso Gold DVDs from Capstone Productions, covering more than the last couple of decades of history documentary production here in town, uploaded completely and free for your viewing pleasure, plus the more recent 20 ABC7 TV series from El Paso History TV featuring Bernie Sargent in front of the camera. I was behind it for a lot of that, doing some of the production and editing on some of the topics about history around town, kind of introducing that for the next generation. So find that over there on our YouTube channel, along with, of course, our other channels. But then, of course, a reminder to support some of our advertisers. Pepe's Restaurant in Canutillo is open for in-house dining, 6761 Donovan Drive. Call Pepe's at 915-877-2152. That's 915-877-2152. Of course, keeping alive the great Griggs recipes and home of the Juan and only margarita. I will not be able to head out there after the show this Saturday, but I am sure that they will be serving up the great food, and we'll be back out there as soon as we can. But again, joining us here in studio right now, we do have, again, from my left to right, Vanessa Martinez, Executive Director, Dominique Clark, Marketing Director, and Elliott Werner, Docent and Volunteer with War Eagles Air Museum. We were talking a little bit in the previous segment about some of the programming, again, the special events, as well as the collection itself here. But, of course, the ability to go out there at any time, when y'all are open, of course, is important, and specifically tours, because while there's certainly a lot to be gotten out of just kind of, again, wandering that impressive exhibit floor, but there's also a whole lot more that can be gotten into when people book a specific tour, right?
Yes, so you're more than welcome to book a tour, and you can do that for whether it's a college class, you can do it for elementary, middle school, high school, whatever it may be. You can book it for a group of friends who are just coming in and you want to make sure you get the full experience. You can do that on our website under Plan Your Visit, and we will ensure that we make sure we have the correct amount of docents available for you. We have educational little materials that we can give out, like scavenger hunts and just different things to enhance your experience and make it more fun and, hands-on for you. So a lot of school groups, like the one that you've got on that screen there, they come and they bring their lunch and they eat lunch in the upstairs conference room. We've got a beautiful conference room that overlooks the active runway. The kids love to see the planes take off during the day. And again, that's just another experience enhancer that you get that another normal person who doesn't book a tour would not receive.
Yeah, that is one of the interesting parts about this out there. I mean, y'all are a museum, and you got the hangar floor as part of it, but the part that is of interest is, particularly for those that are looking at this picture, on the right-hand side, if I'm not mistaken about my orientation here, that is the main doors that, if they open up, would lead right out onto the runway, because this is active working airport.
Yes.
I mean, we're not exactly talking about like El Paso International or like, DFW or anything like that, but I mean, there are takeoffs, and so this is not just a museum. There's active aviation going on adjacent to this all the time.
Oh, yes, exactly. So if you come on a busy day, you see huge jets taking off. I mean, it is actually a very active airport. And then there was a huge contract that was just signed for $70 billion where they're going to start building commercially. So we're starting to see this uptick in just traffic everywhere. But several pilots we see come in and out all the time. They're really, very active.
I've taken a variety of different flights out there now that I'm thinking about it, including some of the historic planes that have come by that are still flying, like the, from the, Commemorative Air Force and things like that, as well as I have been in that helicopter previously. We actually have some footage from, we use it for news purposes, going over some of the, sites out there, particularly development out there at Santa Teresa. If you haven't been out there in Santa Teresa, just in general, in the last decade or so, it's completely changed and completely different type of area. Like the entire area is getting built up, among other things. So the roads are better than they used to be. I will definitely say that specifically. But I mean, and I've even been, single engine, one wing planes, as well as, some of the dual ones. So there's a lot going on out there that people can come, and even if they just want to, you can really spend a day out there seeing all the things that are going on next to, again, a working airport and the museum.
Oh, yeah. Elliott, what do you think is the biggest jet we've seen?
Well, it's basically a corporate airport. Yeah. A lot of corporate flight out of there. We also have a port of entry. The DNNK is a port of entry.
Of course.
And so we have a lot of commercial or charter flights coming in. And probably the Gulfstream 500 is probably one of the biggest airplanes that this airport is going to start receiving larger aircraft because like the 737 will be coming in. We know that's set up or a schedule. So the airport is growing, and there's many things happening.
Sorry.
And like you mentioned, Andrew, there's a lot of development out there. And I kind of wanted to piece that with Dominique mentioning we had a conference room. So that's become quite popular over the last year or so. We've been renting it out for corporate and business functions. And over the last year, we've actually hosted and held delegates from all over the world. I mean, from China, from Mexico, who are looking to come into the area and develop Santa Teresa.
Wow, that's actually fascinating, because we often kind of talk about in other programming about what's going on out there, the developments, I mean, kind of, trade, transit, travel, all those T words that are important that come through that area as well. But knowing that the museum is involved and there has an aspect of it is fascinating as well. So tell you what, we've got to take that next break right now. Again, last speaking right there was Vanessa Martinez, Executive Director, also, of course, Dominique Clark, Marketing Director, and Elliott Werner, Docent/volunteer with War Eagles Air Museum. We'll be talking a lot more about what's going on and available out there, and of course, the exhibit. So stay tuned for more on the El Paso History Radio Show after this break on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You're listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You're listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archived radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Of course, I have to mention some of our other great partners in talking about El Paso and regional history, including the great group over at Celebration of Our Mountains. You can find them primarily over on Facebook these days at Celebration of Our Mountains or Celeb MTNS if you're looking for it specifically, but just search Celebration of Our Mountains. Some of the posting about events and things they got going on over there. But if you really want to come out and meet them in person, they often have tours, talks, and other things, not just in the mountains, but also around elsewhere. But you really want to meet them in person. Best way to do that, they've brought back their monthly meetings the last Thursdays of each month at Artavino's Desert Crossing at 7 p.m. So to find out more information or get in contact with them besides going to the meetings, best way to do so would be via email. So Philip Goodell 43 at gmail.com. That's PHILIPGOODELL 43 at gmail.com. Best way to get a hold of them these days. But in the meantime, of course, joining us here in studio right now with War Eagles Air Museum, we do have Vanessa Martinez, Executive Director, Dominique Clark, Marketing Director, and Elliott Werner, Docent and Volunteer with the museum. And so, of course, we've been talking about the exhibits and what people can see if they come out and experience the museum directly. But, of course, you all are having, well, some events that have come up. We mentioned that we have the summer camp that's going to be gearing up here shortly, and spots are, of course, filling up for it. But besides, of course, the age focus onto it, what I would kind of roughly describe as a middle school, you said that, kind of up to 14, about 10 to 14, give or take. I mean, it's a summer camp, and it's more than just an extended look at the plains, kind of like you were talking about, right?
Definitely. So one of the main things, that we've discussed with what our mission is, beyond preserving history, I would say perhaps the second most important thing we do is to educate the next generation of students, of pilots, and everyone that's in the surrounding community. I often think, and we talk about what it's like to grow up in this region in general, and oftentimes kids don't grow up feeling that they can become a pilot or become a mechanic or become an air traffic controller. And right now, we feel that it's so important for us to put an event on like this specifically because the aviation industry is hurting and they need people. The projections from now until 2030 are absolutely nuts for people not to want to work in this industry. It's very good pay, very good, very low barrier of entry right now to get in, to become a pilot, and do many different things within the industry. So like I mentioned, it's important for us to start kids off now, offer this opportunity in El Paso, where it didn't exist before. We were talking and we really want to expand more on what we do for education. So we want to, hit those STEM projects. We want to get more science related, engineering, get the kids to use their hands, think analytically and critically about what they're doing, beyond just being excited about looking at a big airplane. But, here, we'll show you how to actually, we're going to do a sheet metal project. So you can talk a little bit about that.
Well, one thing that she brought up also, people don't realize for one pilot, there are 24 occupations to put that one pilot in the air. So rather than just being a pilot, there's a whole bunch of people in the background just to keep that one pilot up in the air and flying.
Yeah, because of course, pilots just keep planes in the air by sheer force of will, right? No, it takes mechanics, it takes fuel, among other things, and so all the stuff that goes into it. I mean, sure, seeing the plane in the air is exciting, or the aircraft on the ground, but everything that goes into it, it's almost kind of I think of it like a tip of the spear moment. Like, sure, that's the part that you see and is the most thrust forward, but there's a whole lot behind it that propels it forward and is required to keep it going. Because if you don't have maintenance, you don't want to have something breaking or finding out, I should have replaced that a while ago while you're in the air, among other things.
There's no place to pull over to the side of the road in the air. But the pilot's in the glory seat. He's the one that is, everybody observes and sees.
Sure.
But it's the other occupations that keeps him up there.
It's the rock star, but the rock star wouldn't be much without the roadies setting up all the equipment in the meantime.
Yeah, and then some of the projects that we're going through, I'm going to do electricity, and we're going to talk about what electricity is, because you can't see electricity, but we're going to demonstrate some of the stuff, and we're going to do sheet metal projects, we're going to do rocketing projects. They're going to have classes about why an airplane flies. It's magic, what makes it fly. So that's part of the STEM program. It's all. The other day I was giving a tour, and they asked, he said, are you a pilot? And I said, yes. And he said, what does it take? And I said, it's very simple. You just have to know math. You have to know geography. You have to know science. And other than that, it's just all simple.
Sure. Yeah. You just have to know a lot about a lot of things in order to make sure that you're keeping the opposition of natural forces in the air. That whole gravity thing that doesn't like to be defied by that much. So that, of course, the summer camps, as again you have coming up here, starting, of course, on I've got my dates right here, June 12th, of course, here, June 12th through the 16th, and registration going on right now. People can either call or go to WarEaglesAirMuseum.com. You mentioned that this is the second year y'all are doing this, right?
Yes.
And so for people who maybe, I remember back in that age, I would often do concurrent summer camps and similar type of things. For those that maybe were involved in this previously, are there some new things or things that they may, have expanded upon in this coming year?
We've actually had quite a few sign-ups from last year because the kids enjoyed it so much that they're coming back. But what they will experience that's different from last year is all of the activities that Vanessa and Elliott have mentioned. They're so much more in depth now. The team is really basing the activities, off of the STEM, requirements for that school age that we're catering to.
Sure.
So parents can, rest assured they're sending their kids to a camp where the research has been done, the activities and the lessons really that they're getting are unique to what they need for their age group. And the people who have put these together are actual pilots, actual people who have been, air crew members. So that's a really interesting fact that I don't think we've mentioned yet. The teachers of these lessons, for example, Elliott, Michael, Mario, and everyone else involved, the people who are teaching these lessons to your child are either pilots, air crew members, people with actual aviation experience. So they're really getting a unique treat that you really wouldn't be able to get at another summer camp.
Absolutely. I mean, the science and technology and, of course, all the other focuses that are involved in STEM and those aspects of it, particularly for that age range. I mean, I've had some dealings with elementary schoolers recently, did some career fair type things, and they start getting interested, but I really feel like it's in that age range that you start getting into so that's like how I could like do stuff with this, to start being more planning out of it. That's when, at my age range, when I realized that I like to argue and figured out how I could do that for a living. So that kind of a thing. So when you mentioned kind of, the pipeline, among other things, of getting kids interested. I mean, sure, we're talking about like maybe 2030, you start talking about these kids being able to start getting into it. But at the very least, like you mentioned, the exposure. This is not a recruitment program by any means, but the idea of, hey, broaden your horizons, think about what's possible out there. I mean, that's one of the kind of critical aspects of this.
Exactly.
100%. I mean, even anytime you go out to our Flights and Sights event, right, you see a small aircraft, a Cessna 172, which is often used for training purposes. Everyone is impressed by that. I mean, the smiles on people's faces. And in this camp, we're kind of taking that to next level, and we're allowing kids to step into, a large corporate jet. And, what's more inspiring than that, knowing that there are people around you in your community that have aspired to those levels, and so can you.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And I mean, we've been seeing more about that. I mean, not to talk too much about other airports, but I mean, even at El Paso International, there's been the whole, private jet port, the Million Air, that has opened. So I feel like, okay, it may be, if you're only focused on what's on the ground, easy to ignore what's going on in the air, but I feel like there's maybe more awareness of the fact that, no, it's not just, either military or huge, airlines, that there's kind of something in between and maybe more accessible and local that comes along with this here. So it's an interesting aspect that y'all are delving into with, of course, the continued focus on the history as well, because, I mean, of course, it's happening at the museum, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of focus on the exhibits and talking about that with the kids as well, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. They'll get, an exclusive behind-the-scenes tour with, guided tours with the docents where they can touch things, and not your normal come in, visit the museum tour. So that will happen also. That happened last year. The kids really loved it. So they definitely will get to experience the history aspect of that as well.
Absolutely, which is, of course, one of the things that we're very focused on here. But again, that's Dominique Clark, Marketing Director, also, of course, speaking, Vanessa Martinez, Executive Director, and Elliott Werner, Docent and Volunteer with War Eagles Air Museum, talking a little bit more about, of course, what they got going on here and some of the programming. So stay tuned for more on the El Paso History Radio Show after this brief break on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You're listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You're listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archived radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Of course, some of our other great partners in talking about different aspects of El Paso history, including Rick Kern's music podcast, Talk and Rock Radio. Find him online at talkandrockradio.com. That's talkandrockradio.com. Talking about a lot of different, particularly musically focused, if you couldn't guess from the name, aspects of El Paso's history and regional, often talking with previous acts, maybe famous locations, and people who came in and around and through the borderland over the years. So again, check that out. Also previous guests on the show, talkandrockradio.com. But again, joining us here in studio right now from War Eagles Air Museum, we do have Vanessa Martinez, the Executive Director, Dominique Clark, the Marketing Director, and Elliott Werner, the Docent/volunteer with War Eagles Air Museum, talking a lot about, of course, what's going on, the events, the spaces and possibilities that are available out at the museum these days, along with, of course, the exhibits, which were always going to be something that I keep in mind here. But when it comes actually to the summer camp that we have coming up here a little bit later in this this month of June, there are a couple of aspects of it that are more than just exposure, education, or demonstrations of certain concepts, like you're mentioning of the STEM concept. There is actually going to be hands-on, arguably training as part of it as well, right?
Yes, so we are excited to provide the kids time in a full motion flight simulator. So essentially what a pilot would go through training for to become a pilot and to learn, they're going to get time in that. And naturally that's a very expensive, experience, but that's included in the camp, and we're super excited that they get to have time with a CFI in the flight simulator, because it's something that you normally wouldn't be able to do in a day-to-day experience.
So when you say full motion, kind of describe what that looks like. I mean, what are they going to be getting into? I mean, it used to be that, flight simulators were, at least at the non-military or full commercial level, was, you're just sitting in front of a computer screen, and now we've got like VR and other things like that. I have some friends that are way too deep into the weeds and got like replica pilot chairs, those kind of things. So, but with the level that you're talking about, what does the setup end up looking like?
So it's a huge flight simulator. It's probably about half the size of this room, and you've got all the controls in front of you. You've got all the screens, and you're sitting with a certified flight instructor, and they're teaching you, and you get to choose. You get to literally see, like, if you were flying an airplane, where are you landing? Where is your airport? What airport are you at? What airspace are you flying in? And you get to land the airplane, fly the airplane. You crash, you got to try it again, and they teach you the controls like if you were sitting in an aircraft. And so it's not just a computer, and it's not just, like a setup, which those are very valuable too, and we do have some of those, but the full motion flight simulator, it rocks and moves like if you were in an aircraft, and it's so interesting. Kids get in that, and sometimes they like it more than getting in the aircraft because they're like, wow, this is the best video game I've ever played.
And you making a mistake there certainly has a lot different implications, and maybe at the very least in that circumstance you can try again then.
So that's a really a huge highlight, that the whole camp in and of itself is a wonderful experience. Once in a lifetime, we like to say, because again, you just can't get it anywhere else. But the one of the highlights is definitely that full motion flight simulator. Definitely ignites their little brains, and we love to see it. Yeah,
I mean, getting the chance to actually simulate doing a full aircraft, but also, I mean, there is also, we were talking about experience to get on, well, actual maneuvering of an aircraft of a type, right? Drones.
Well, this airplane in the simulator happens to be a 172.
Ah, okay.
And one of the things that we're going to stress when they're into, this is important, this is real. You don't go out there and try to crash it, because some kids, you go out and try to crash it, you're done.
Yeah.
So this is a learning experience.
Absolutely.
So you figure out how to take off and how to do a flight, and probably how to try to land. If you're going to hurt the airplane, we're going to stop the simulator.
Yeah, because that should never be the even a guess, joke at an attempt, because that's serious stuff, like you were saying.
It is serious. As a pilot, you don't want to do things like that. So.
Yeah. So that's very important, and definitely a very important note to add with this. But again, even beyond the practice of it, there will be, again, practical application. Y'all do some work with drones out there as well, right?
Yeah, we're actually going to be working with drones as well. And I mean, you all probably remember the news and just the rapid technological development of drones and over the past several years. And so kids are going to get a little bit of an introduction. They're going to be smaller type drones, very sensitive on the controls though. So they're first going to have the ability to have a drone simulator as well. So they're going to have to, prove that they're going to be responsible once they actually get to fly the real one.
Very fair point.
But it's so important, that's just another part of aviation that they should be exposed to as well.
Absolutely. So a lot of hands-on and a lot of experiences people will be able to have out there with this camp. But again, even if people aren't signing up for this or of the age range, or if they're jealous of that age range because they can't take a part of it, don't worry, there are other things going on. Because again, there is the ongoing flights and sites that'll be going on, well, at this point, next month when we're recording, so about the end of next month. But that is another chance for people to, okay, maybe not so much hands-on with the controls of it, but definitely in-person direct experience with what it's like to be, particularly in the types of airframes that they could be closer to if they really wanted to get into it, right?
Absolutely. We like to think that event's probably one of the most unique, I would even say, in the nation. So the reality of what we're doing is, like Dominique mentioned, we're offering an economical opportunity for someone to jump into a small aircraft. Typically, the other side of that is you can likely walk up to any flight school and ask them, can I take a discovery flight?
Sure.
But that experience is, for a single person is typically upwards of $200. And so what we're doing, is trying to bring this closer to the community and opening up the opportunity for people to do the same thing at a lower price. So it's really been a huge success for us. Hosting this, people find out about us, and they leave with a very unique experience. Not knowing that they got into an airplane that day and flew around the area.
Exactly. So, I mean, anytime I've gotten a chance to do that has been pretty great overall, I got to say, because, yeah, seeing it from a different, I mean, sure, if anyone's taking a commercial flight, I mean, you are flying, but it's a very different experience from when you can't see, the way it's being controlled, and with, frankly, the view that you have all around it. Because, let's just say there's not about a lot of airliners I've been in that'll do a nice circle of a particular feature, like, what's that over there? Okay, let's take a look. I mean, there are restrictions, of course, and it's not a free-form thing, but it's just, it's a different experience, and particularly if you got, I mean, we've got a lot of the examples you got of with kids going out there as well, or whole families. This can be a great experience for them to check out something that they wouldn't get an opportunity, you said, like just about anywhere else, particularly not in our region.
Well, and nowhere else can you get personal time with the flight instructor.
Sure.
Literally letting you touch the controls, put your feet on the pedals. And so all of the instructors who do these flights, there's two in particular, they're amazing with the guests, and they absolutely love them. And, they're laughing, they're joking while they're flying. They're giving them a tour. They're asking them, hey, you want to go to 0 Gs? Like, it's a really fun thing for families and for kids, and even like adults really love it. And also, I would like to say, I'm piggybacking off of what Vanessa mentioned, we want to make sure aviation is attainable. So I don't think it really is in our community, but it is. In general, it is. And if we can provide that gateway for you to learn and to grow and to kind of find the interest in that and realize it's attainable for you also, that's our part of our purpose. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, it's there. So again, that's Dominique Clark, a marketing director. Also, of course, speaking Vanessa Martinez, executive director, and Elliott Werner, docent and volunteer with War Eagles Air Museum. Got to take that break and get to the top of the hour now, but we'll have a lot more in the second hour of the program coming up after this break on News Radio 690 KTSM, getting more into what's going on at War Eagles and, of course, the exhibit. So stay tuned for more on the El Paso History Radio Show after this break on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You're listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on YouTube.com. You're listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on YouTube.com. You're listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com.
Welcome back to the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk, continuing our conversation about War Eagles Air Museum, their many features, and of course, exhibits into the second hour of the program right now. But starting off hour 2, as we usually do, with a history moment from documentary filmmaker Jackson Polk, talking this week about the McGinty Club and its impact on El Paso history.
The McGinty Club was a men's fun-making group that also contributed to the civic development in the bustling frontier town of El Paso in the 1890s. A friendly group of men loved to gather at the assay office of Dan Reckart on San Francisco Street. 2 men there owned a guitar and a mandolin. The crowd joined them in singing songs of the day, the most popular being Down Went McGinty. From this beginning, the McGinty Club soon sprang into full being. Reckart was the only president the club ever had. It had no firm rules, and a constitution that was largely a joke, stating that the club's purpose as to put down liquor. A keg of beer was the initiation fee. Among its members were lawyers, 3 mayors, 3 prominent bankers, several judges, the manager of Myers Opera House, a tax assessor, 2 physicians, and almost everybody who was anybody. The club had more than 300 members. The club enlisted the aid of the bandmaster from Fort Bliss, and throughout the 1890s, the McGinty Marching Band was a part of almost every civic endeavor. The club established Fort McGinty on a hill near the downtown area. its booming cannon would announce a big civic event. Long before El Paso dreamed of a Chamber of Commerce, the McGinty Club was the town's chief booster organization. The projects were endless. The McGintys held bicycle races, boxing matches, and baseball games. The membership had 8 groups: a concert band, brass band, choir, orchestra, drum and fife corps, banjo, and troubadours. Each group had its own director and manager. They were the official greeter committee for the city. Dignitaries, convention delegates, and just casual visitors received a musical welcome from the group. The McGinty Club never really ended. It simply died out with the coming of a new and more sophisticated century. By the end of 1902, it was a glorious but fading memory. I'm Jackson Polk with this history moment for the El Paso History Radio Show.
And also, of course, have to mention some of our other great partners in El Paso history, and particularly promotion of it, and not even just in the specific sense, but in the constant sense of always putting things out. Barbara Given-Baney, operator of the great Facebook group Remember in El Paso When. You can go there for archive pictures galore. More than 33, almost 34,000 members as of last check. But please remember, these administrators have worked hard in researching photos with our history attached, so they do ask that when you use their photos that you do give credit to the site. And a lot of credit to be given to the owners, admins, and moderators, because it's no mean feat to keep such a large group on task and on track. And so Chief Admin, Owner, and Historian Barbara Given-Baney, affectionately known as BGB, but also, of course, admins Rick Duncan, Rick Nahara, Margaret D. Smith, Jim Gerber, and moderators Ben Vincent and Dan Graves. They're always looking for a few more good hands and eyeballs in helping to, again, manage and moderate the site. So if you want to find out or just join to see what goes on there and see the history that gets talked about, Remember in El Paso When, the Facebook group Remember in El Paso When. But again, joining us here in studio right now, we do have from my left to right Vanessa Martinez, Executive Director, Dominique Clark, Marketing Director, and Elliott Werner, Docent and Volunteer with War Eagles Air Museum. Thank you all very much for sticking around with us for the second hour of the program here.
Thank you for having us. We're having fun.
It's a lot of fun.
As well, happy to have you all on because besides, all the programming going on and the things that people may be able to experience and see changes going on with, of course, the exhibits. The exhibit floor is absolutely still there. It would be no mean feat to get any of that moved in a particular way. But, some of the things that you all have had going on particularly is that some of this stuff has moved. Well, you have gotten it to move. It's still there. Don't worry. Nothing is missing or anything. But you've got to put it back out in besides just the museum circumstance in the kind of static way, you've gotten to put it out like on the tarmac and see them in different configurations. Is some of the things you all have been able to do more recently, right?
Definitely. Yep. We've actually, one of the fun things we did last November was start up the engine of the TF-51.
Really?
So that was really cool. There's nothing like it, right, Elliott?
Yeah, listening to the Rolls-Royce Merlin 12-cylinder. Yeah, it's got lots of power. It's impressive to listen to. But and one thing interesting about the displays of the museum, the majority of those aircraft were all flown in. So they're all flyable aircraft, or they were flyable at one time. It would take a little bit of work to make them flyable again.
Sure.
But that's why there's drip pans on the floors underneath them, because they still have a little bit of oil in them. But that's one thing that's unique when people walk in and they go, these are really interesting airplanes, and they all have their motors in them, and they're unique.
They got here somehow, and so of course, 34 years as y'all are celebrating this year. Any comparable type of vehicle that has potentially sat for that long, you wouldn't expect to, like they do in the movies whenever they find, decrepit old airplanes or, vehicles sitting around. They always magically start right now. It would take a little bit of time and things because, think about it, if you left your car sitting around for 34 years, you probably wouldn't expect it to start right up, if at all. But, you all take care of it, and mothball might not be the totally correct phrase, but the kind of idea that I think a lot of people will get of the idea of treating it in such a way so that it can be preserved and won't kind of, have, fuel lines rotting, fluids getting everywhere, all those kind of things. Those are the kind of things that you all take care of, right?
Correct.
So, of course, there's a lot of vehicles and a lot of different exhibits, features, etc. that you all have out there. But we were kind of talking about it during the break that really the main features that you all like to focus on is, with the very least, the rock stars, as you were kind of referring to it, Elliott, of the warbirds, of the specific ones that you have out there that were actively involved and not just they have a lot more history involved with them in particular besides just the history of their airframes and the model themselves, right?
That is correct, and actually we have 4 birds out there that are veterans. That we have almost all the logbooks of the aircraft, so
Really?
we know what they've done. And like the P-40 Warhawk, we know it was a Canadian bird, and it flew the Aleutian Islands, and it has some battle wounds from that.
Really?
Our
Okay.
F-4U, our Corsair, we know that it is a Korean War bird. It also has some battle wounds from it. And our OH-6 that's hanging from the ceiling, and a huge helicopter. It also has battle wounds, and it has some medals that were given to it. And then our big airplane that I like to brag on is our DC-3 or C-47.
Right.
We have true history on that. We know that aircraft was built in 1943. Its first flight was in 1944. It was assigned to the 9th Air Force, and if everybody knows where the 9th Air Force was the North Egypt campaign area.
Okay.
Then we know that it flew on June the 6th, 1944. The 9th Air Force flew 2,000 missions, and if that airplane could talk, it would be real interesting to see what it did down that day.
That would have been D-Day.
That
right?
was D-Day.
D-Day and the many famous scenes that have been in a ton of different movies. Band of Brothers comes to mind. Let's focus on the paratroopers during the Normandy beaches were certainly one thing, and it's certainly been remembered with, the recent, of course, date for Memorial Day, but the pre-dawn part of it, before the landings, the sky full of parachutes, that was with the DC-3, and so typically this one was a part of that.
This one was part of that.
That is amazing and fascinating. So, and that's one of the more hands-on ones that y'all got. I mean, you got some pictures here of people being able to kind of board in and around it. So, because it then did serve in a civilian capacity, or you have it kind of set up and it's a version of a civilian, like transport capacity as well, right?
Well, after the World War II, then it was surplused out and was turned into a DC-3, a passenger airplane, and had many uses at that, many owners. And it was used as a passenger airplane, and that's what it's set up right now, a passenger airplane. And so you can go inside of it, sit in the seats. The seats are real comfortable. Walk all the way to the cockpit and see what the pilots at that time were flying. And as I do tours around, it's interesting to listen to people go, yeah, my first airplane ride was in a DC-3 when my parents took me on a flight. So, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's often been said that that's the explosion of airlines and the ability for air travel as it became more democratized over the years. Because, I mean, there are some other examples that I didn't get to get into it, but you've had like a Ford Tri-Motor out there in previous years, coming through or nearby. And like, sure, that's kind of was possible. It was certainly possible to do a commercial flight before World War II, but I mean, the very least kind of the DC-3 in its own example, that a lot of them being surplus out, the ones that survived from the war, made it so that it became more and more feasible for the average everyday person to be able to get an airplane and use it for travel.
Yes. And there's lots of DC-3s still flying today because it is a workhorse.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've known a couple people who've jumped out of them in certain circumstances, which I'll still never get. Haven't done it myself. Maybe I will one of these days here. But so those are just some of the examples of what you all have available out there and to go through. So I want to go through a couple more of the actual other, the warbirds. You have the veterans, so to speak. You're particularly the Corsair, which we have both the way that it is featured within the hangar, the way you have it set up in that, famous carrier configuration with the bent wings and the wings folded up. But you all did get the chance to actually take it out and put it on the tarmac there for a bit, right?
Yes, and several aircraft were backdrops for car shows and things, and the Corsair was that. The P-40 was also a backdrop for one of the car shows. It's nice to get them outside, park classic cars up against them, and take pictures with them.
No, sure. So it's interesting you mentioned that the Corsair, which again a lot of particularly with there's been some more recent movies like Midway or other things like that have often ended up focusing on the carrier combat, and the Corsairs were certainly a part of that. You mentioned that this one specifically was more actually the Korean conflict, so into the 50s, right?
Yes, this was flown in the Korean War. Yes.
So what other details do you have on that? Any idea of the kind of things it participated in?
I don't believe we've had that much documentation, but we just
okay.
know its time frame and where it was. So.
Because Korean is often referred to as the forgotten war because it was almost seen. I mean, it's easy. A lot of people jump over from World War II to then Vietnam, but I mean, this was a serious conflict, and this one, I mean, there was almost a pushed off the peninsula, so to speak. It happened in the progression of that war, right?
Correct.
So that one's a fascinating one to see there. So, of course, I got a lot more that we'll be getting into in a lot more detail. So, again, joining us here in studio, that's Elliott Werner, docent and volunteer. Also speaking, of course, Dominique Clark, our marketing director, and also Vanessa Martinez, executive director with War Eagles Air Museum. We'll be talking more about them and, of course, these features. We've got to take that next break right now. So back after this break with more on the El Paso History Radio Show on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You're listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You're listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archive pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or over on our various social media pages. Again, El Paso History Radio Show on Facebook, the El Paso History TV over on YouTube, and similar pages both on Facebook and then also Twitter and Twitch.tv. Also look for it under Andrew J. Polk. Of course, we've got a lot more that we'll be talking about in future days on the show here, including some of the things we're working on for you involving what's going on with the Franklin Mountains and, frankly, the state park system here in Texas celebrating its 100th anniversary, among other things. And then also, of course, more on some of the military history of things in town. But again, joining us here in studio right now, we do have Vanessa Martinez, the Executive Director, Dominique Clark, the Marketing Director, and Elliott Werner, a docent and volunteer with War Eagles Air Museum. We were talking about some of the many vehicles and planes that you all have out there, focusing specifically on some of the veterans, more specifically. And one of the interesting things that we were kind of talking about, we want to delve into a little bit further, is about one of the airframes that you mentioned, the TF-51. Taking a look at the kind of a tail view of it here. And some people that, again, may have not been, not as familiar necessarily with the technical aspects of it, but have seen media, would think, wait, isn't that a Mustang?
That is a Mustang. It is a two-place airplane. It is a trainer, and actually John McGuire was very passionate about flying in airplanes, and this was their personal airplane. And the interesting thing about John and Betty, they both soloed on the same day. They were both pilots. Most people don't realize that John had polio, so his legs didn't work very well. And the main reason that they used this airplane so much, Betty would sit in the back, she was the brakes, and John was the pilot. And so that was their personal airplane that flew all over. We also have a D model P-51, which is does not have paint on it, which you can walk up and just see the craftsmanship that went into this particular airplane. The P-51 versus like the P-38. The P-38 was a high-altitude airplane. The P-51 did all of them. It was a low-altitude attack airplane. It could do a high-altitude. It could do escorts. It was just completely versatile airplane, and that's why it was so successful.
Yeah, and why it's so prominently featured. I don't have any good pictures of it here, but yeah, the P-38, the Lightning, is one of my personal favorites, the one I'm always attracted to whenever I'm out that way, just because it's such a unique airframe, the twin tail and the boom between it, twin engine type of aircraft, and also a lot of firepower on there, I gotta say. But so that's one of the ones that I'm more fascinated by, because it's just there was a lot of innovation, some good, some bad, that happened during World War II, and that was one of the good ones. It seemed like, at the very least, it was one of the ones that had some of the best performance out of it here, even if maybe not one of the main warbirds or veterans that you're talking about.
Well, and the P-38 was mainly used in the Pacific Theater.
Right.
Because of its high altitude, it could attack the Jap zeros and stuff. Our particular P-38 was a reconnaissance bird, so it never had armament on it. It had cameras in the nose, and again, because it was such a high altitude aircraft, it would go out and take pictures of what the B-17s and B-29s were going to bomb the next day. So that's a fascinating aspect of it. But yeah, that aspect that you have that with that T-51 too. So yeah, which would be the trainer version of the P-51. The fact that it's a two-seater makes it. Does it make that much bigger of a plane then? No, it's the same dimensions as the P-51. What's unique about this particular airplane, it was built that way, and so it's kind of a rare airplane to be as what it is as a two-place trainer. A lot of airplanes, the Bs and the Cs are modified for two-place that like Sun and the Fun down in Florida, or to give me rides and things.
No, sure.
But they're it's not a true place trainer.
Yeah, modified to make it, squeezing it in, so to speak, here, as opposed to purpose built like this one was.
Correct.
That is fascinating. So you wanted to add, Dominique?
The TF-51, most people don't know this, was born out of a war surplus from the P-51, is my understanding, and what a lot of our docents have mentioned to me. So that makes it rare, because the P-51 is a beautiful airplane, but
Sure.
the TF-51 was born out of a war surplus. So they were kind of sold off, and then, ours, I believe, was made out of multiple airplanes. It's a combination of multiple airplanes.
Ah, okay. Interesting as well. So one of the features and kind of things that you can go out if you're seeing again at War Eagles Air Museum. You know what? I think at this point we have forgotten to mention the exact address if people are trying to look for it there. We mentioned that out by the airport, so yeah, look for the planes, look for what's flying out there. But if people are actually trying to get there, what's the best way? How should they best navigate or put in the address for it?
Yes, so the physical address is 8012 Airport Road, Santa Teresa, New Mexico, 88008. But an easy way to describe it is you take Artcraft exit, you go all the way down. Once you hit the Love's truck stop, you turn right. And then you go all the way down the road. You're going to take a little bit of a turn, and once you start to see the tanks and things out front,
Sure.
You just turn in there, and it's going to be a big sign that says War Eagles Air Museum.
Including there's a new wish feature kind of by y'all's entryway of a helicopter emplacement, right?
Yes, so that is the new Veterans Memorial Park, and that is a very special monument and gift to the community. That was put into place and opened officially last Veterans Day, so November 11th, and there's a beautiful H-34 sitting out there that's been remodeled and restored by volunteers and members of the community. One of our board members, Mike McNamee, he doesn't like to be named, but we like to give him the credit. Sorry, Mike. But, he put in a lot of sweat and tears, and so did a lot of the community. Sure. And it's a beautiful monument to that community aspect of the airport and just everybody's love for honoring our veterans.
Absolutely. So it used to kind of feel like, okay, just kind of drive off until you stop seeing things anymore, and then you'll find the airport and the entry to War Eagles there. But now there's something a little bit more like, hey, look for this specifically, and not just this one particular hangar. So an interesting feature to mention out there. But again, that's Dominique Clark. Again, also speaking with us is Elliott Werner, docent and volunteer, and Vanessa Martinez, executive director, all with War Eagles Air Museum. Got to take that next break right now. But coming out of this break, talking more about their features, about the exhibits, and particularly how you can get involved. So stay tuned for more on the El Paso History Radio Show after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You're listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Baney, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You're listening to the El Paso History Radio Show streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com.
Welcome back to the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Of course, if you want to find out some of the things that are going on with our show each and every week, but also, of course, the unique and in-depth reporting in El Paso Inc. each and every week, you can find our promo announcements a little bit more in-depth in the B section, but, of course, they're in-depth and unique reporting on the region. To receive El Paso's business journal, El Paso Inc. is available for home or business delivery. You can also get it online, and your full subscription, visit elpasoinc.com. That's elpasoinc.com. But again, joining us here in studio right now, we do have Vanessa Martinez, the Executive Director, Dominique Clark, the Marketing Director, and Elliott Werner, Docent and Volunteer with War Eagles Era Museum, going through some of the ongoing exhibits, the things that people can see whenever they head out there. So one of the ones we were talking a little bit more, just kind of touched on, but wanted to delve into further, is of course the P-40 Warhawk, the one that very iconic. It's got that sharp shark tooth grin under on the the engine housing around the air intake. So one of the more kind of iconic designs that people probably would have seen to it. And this particular plane, besides being a veteran itself, also people would have seen it in certain media productions, right?
Yes. So the 1970s film Tora Tora, it was our plane was actually in that film. Mm-hmm.
So it was in it. So yeah, I'm not going to ask if you know exact minutes when people can see it here, because that might be a bit much. But watch the whole thing. I'm sure you have seen it. And this is another one that you got to take out onto the tarmac in recent years, right?
Yes. So we just recently took that out we had a big car show in April with Spot El Paso, and we took that out, and it was gorgeous. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Beautiful day, good lighting, and just to see it actually out there and closer to what it would be like if it was flying. Like you mentioned, they all did fly in, even if they're not in that shape right now, just because, storage and flying are two different types of technical concerns. So, when it comes to this particular plane, I mean, its war history is fascinating. The time it was actually used in conflict, right?
Yes. The Canadians used this airplane before it was surplused out. One of the interesting things about once it became surplus, a collector, a U.S. collector, bought it for $50.
50.
And it was
50.
still 50, and it was still a flyable airplane at that time. And that's how the movie company went looking for it and purchased it for the movie Tora Tora Tora. And then after Tora Tora, then it had several other owners that would take it to air shows and things like that. So, and then John McGuire run across it and gave it a home.
So you mentioned a couple of things earlier about it having been used by, like to say, the Canadians and in the Aleutian Islands, because as much as there's a common misconception, I feel like that there was no direct attacks on the United States proper outside of, of course, Pearl Harbor. During the progression of World War II, there were minor other things, skirmishes at best, that were happening on, like, say, California. But the Aleutians, those weren't just an attack. Those were actually occupied at one point in time by Japanese forces.
Yes, they were. And the U.S. and the Canadians fought those, and that's how our plane got some battle wounds from it. So,
And the Aleutians, what we're referring to there is the island chain, kind of that long tip of the tail of Alaska. What we're talking about there, in case anyone's unclear about that. But this airframe on its own, the model of it, I should say, had a very long history in the conflict, technically predating the official start of World War II when it's put at, because it was being used even during the Japanese expansion by, forces opposing that, basically.
correct. And it was part of the Volunteer Air Force when Japan was invading China. And the emperor went to Roosevelt and asked for airplanes, but he couldn't do that because we were not in war. So Roosevelt sold 100 airplanes to China and expanded on that. So that's how it became the Flying Tigers.
Yep, and so that's the way you have it represented now. Again, with that, sharp tooth. I may have said shark and mistakenly. I mean, it's definitely, intimidating, but it's meant to be kind of, showing the air intake as this kind of like snarling growl, as also part of the attitude. I think that part of some of the names are using, like the Flying Tigers, among other things, because, like you said, this was sure, China and the Imperial China, as it was at that point in time, had some of its own forces, but the Imperial Japanese, rather, the invasion that was happening. But we think a lot from the Americans' perspective about the island campaigns and Midway and other things like that. Okinawa, famous names like that. But there was a lot going on in mainland China, what is now mainland China, and these were the primary, again, Air Force speaking opposers of that.
Correct.
So this one didn't take necessarily part in that, but again, the version of it, the painting of it anyway, is something that can be seen, because this is what would have been seen in those, dozens, as was part of it, that Americans did take part in, but not in a, official government capacity, but in a volunteer going to oppose this expansion aspect of it, right?
Well, after Pearl Harbor, then all those volunteer soldiers, airmen at that time, now became military. And one of our things that we know, Greg Boyington was one of those individuals that was a volunteer pilot, and our Blue Corsair happens to show some of the things that the Corsairs, the Pappy Boyington, and that's our connection.
Excellent. So some of the things, of course, people can see these there, and you do have it kind of a little bit rotating. I think it's currently right now that people can get up and see into, if not get into, but can see into the cockpit of particularly the P-40, right?
Yes. So there's a little ladder where you can go up, and kids love it. We actually had a field trip yesterday, and they enjoyed going up and climbing the ladder, and you get to actually look into the cockpit and see what the pilot would have seen. We don't encourage you to get in unless it's a very special circumstance, and people usually pay for that. But for school tours and things like that, you're more than welcome to go up and see all the controls, and it's a great experience.
And there's a couple of things that always stick out to me whenever seeing these kind of things. One is that, they're very functional, and of course, a lot of the videos people have seen in whatever media we were talking about, Midway, or more recently Devotion, particularly for the Corsairs, just things people would have seen, is that a lot of controls focus there. They don't really show the seat that much, because honestly, there's usually a person sitting into it. That's why it's in the movie or the video, whatever it is. they were not much to talk about. I mean, this idea of plush airline chairs is not a concept that really existed, at the very least in practice at that point in time. I mean, sometimes we're talking about canvas over bar metal, and that's about it. It was something to keep your butt in place, and comfort was a bonus if you could get it.
Well,
at best,
the seat cushion in the P-40 actually was your parachute.
Yeah, that's
and your
it, yeah.
strapping was all on the back of it. So when you had to climb out of the airplane, because they had no ejection seats at that time,
right?
You had to climb out. You brought your cushion with you because that was the parachute that was going to bring you down.
Yeah, and there's some interesting maneuvers in old manuals I've seen, not sure if it's for the P-40, but for other ones about how, okay, if you're going to have to bail out, you might want to turn the airplane upside down so that gravity will help you get out. Those kind of concepts and consideration that seems like, you want me to do what now from the modern standpoint, but that's just how it worked at that point in time, and how even getting into the aircraft for aviators at that point in time, because, yeah, it wasn't just, as much as flight suits are still iconic, they had a lot of other stuff on them, including that, well, to put it generously, butt flap looking thing that was their parachute. So it wasn't just a this looks awkward. This was this is my life saving device, so I got to have it with me. So maneuvering even just in the cockpit was a little awkward.
Yep.
So that's some of the features that people will be able to see. I don't know if you have an example of that particular uniform, but you have examples of what people were wearing at that point in time also as part of the exhibits, right?
Yes. So people can walk through and they see, oh my gosh, so many throughout the museum. I can't even count, but we've got like Women in Aviation exhibit, mannequins, and just uniforms, official uniforms, whether they're on a mannequin or just in a display case, tied to a name or an exhibit all over. And people love going through and reading and seeing what the actual, because the uniforms vary and
sure.
Throughout time, because you're really going through time, and they love seeing all of that. Yeah.
I want to say, if I'm not mistaken, that you'll have, particularly when it comes to the women in aviation, a focus on the WASPs, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What does that actually stand for? I never quite get the acronym right. The Women Auxiliary Service Pilots, something like that?
That's correct.
That they were technically a part of the military, and doing that didn't see combat in any circumstances somewhere, because basically with all of the trained aviators being put into the conflict, there was still, stuff had to be delivered, moved around, and so essentially they were in service primarily within the United States, but also could be out of it to move the aircraft around after, once they roll off the assembly line.
Well, that was their main function, that when they came off the assembly line, they would take the airplanes either to Hawaii or to Europe. And that was a function, and if they had to bring aircraft back for repair or something, they would do that. You're right, they were not recognized as military personnel.
Right.
Until later, I'm trying to remember what year they were finally recognized as their influence. I've had people come into the hangar, and we were talking about the WASP display, and I go, well, which airplane in this hangar did they fly? And I go, pick one.
Yeah. Pretty much all of them, because, there's a lot of, the iconic Rose of the Riveter style footage of them being built and then them in use. And a lot of people then miss out on the part of, okay, how to get from there to there. It had to get there somehow, and with all of the training, constantly churning out new pilots in order to, because particularly for like the bomber crews, that was a dangerous damn job. There was a whole lot that did not come back from it, because as much as flak may in the movies be shown as it's a puff of smoke here, it was one of the biggest tolls that was seen in almost any form of combat. The attrition rates were enormous.
Can I share another event that happened in the hangar? I had a group come in.
Sure.
It was a mother and her children and grandchildren, and we were talking about their grandfather at that point in time. He was a B-17 pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a book in front of the 8th Air Force, which is a book of all the people that had passed away during missions. And they said, can we look into this book? And I go, really, what you're looking for? Their grandfather was shot down in France. They lost 4 of their crew members, and we went through that book and found the names of those 4 crew members in that book, and they took pictures of them. And so it was kind of unique doing a tour with that group, with that party. And that's kind of the people we run into. They have a connection of the aircraft or some story why they're there.
Absolutely. So again, that's Elliott Werner, docent and volunteer, but also, of course, talking there, Dominique Clark, marketing director, and Vanessa Martinez, executive director, all with War Eagles Air Museum. Talking a little bit more about that, getting towards the close of the show here, but got to take that next break right now. So stay tuned for more on the El Paso History Radio Show here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You are listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com. You're listening to the El Paso History Radio Show, streaming on Facebook, where you can find archive radio programs. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on the Facebook page Remember in El Paso When, run by Chief Administrator Barbara Gibbon-Bainey, known as BGB. Check out that page for thousands of archived pictures and videos of El Paso history. Remember in El Paso When on Facebook. The El Paso History Radio Show also streams on Saturday mornings on our YouTube channel, El Paso History TV. Go to youtube.com/El Paso History TV for archives of the El Paso History Radio Show. Also on that YouTube channel, you can see for free many other videos, documentaries, and lectures about El Paso area history at youtube.com/El Paso History TV. Additionally, watch a dozen TV documentaries about El Paso history for free there on our YouTube channel. This includes Legends of El Paso's Mountains, Gunfights of the Old West, El Paso's Waco Tanks, Mexican Revolution sites in El Paso, and 8 more TV documentaries produced by El Paso filmmaker Jackson Polk since 2001. And at youtube.com/El Paso History TV, you can watch for free 20 short videos we produced that were broadcast on ABC 7 KVIA TV newscasts. This series is called El Paso History TV and features Spanish missions and churches on El Paso's Mission Trail, plus the Guadalupe Mission in Juarez, Mexico. That church was built in 1659 and is the oldest known adobe building on the El Paso Juarez Valley. It still welcomes Catholic worshipers today. Go to El Paso History TV on youtube.com.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for the El Paso History Radio Show, airing in this pre-recorded episode on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk, and of course joining us here in studio have been Vanessa Martinez, Executive Director, Dominique Clark, Marketing Director, and Elliott Werner, a docent and volunteer with War Eagles Air Museum. We've talked a lot about some of the major features and of course ongoing events that you all have. Just to mention a few right now, there are the Flights and Sights Days that happen monthly. The next one coming up July 29th there out at the museum. Chance for people to go out and actually get into a plane and see, again, some of the sights, as the name implies. But then, of course, also we do have the Aviation Summer Camp that is coming up this month. That's going to be going on June 12th through the 16th at the War Eagles Air Museum. Registration's open now. Go to wareaglesairmuseum.com. And, of course, that has a lot of the features that we talked about there. But when it comes to just being involved with the museum, besides, of course, the events that are going on, I mean, of course, Elliott, we've mentioned you as being a volunteer with this, but very knowledgeable in your own right. I'm sure that y'all are always looking for people to get involved if they have an interest with it or looking for a way to give back, right?
Oh yeah, and all ages. I would like to mention that. Whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're looking for something to do for the summer, something to do during school, or you're retired, we always encourage everyone to come by, chat with us so we can see what you like to do. There are so many things to do around the hangar and just around the museum itself. You can help. Some people, we have Tim, he loves to clean the floors. We've got a big event coming and he makes sure they're nice and shiny. We've got Jimmy, and he likes to help do that. He also likes to just help around the hangar. We have docents who like to spread the knowledge and give the tours, help with the lessons. We've got Richard, who's our volunteer photographer. There's so many different things that you can help with. Some people only help for events, and they really like to be involved with the kiddos and help do bingo and things like that.
Sure.
So there are so many different duties. Definitely come talk to us. We'll get you set up, and we want to accommodate you in however we can to best suit the museum.
Absolutely. So we've also mentioned a little bit about how, of course, all of the different airframes, planes, and the things in between, frankly, that you've got out there are because of people who wanted to create this, and of course donations, and of course that's still possible. You all got a pretty full hangar out there, though I'm sure be able to figure out how to do something else if someone else had something that they wanted to donate in terms of a vehicle or other material out there, right?
Yeah, so we're always looking for donations. If someone is looking for a place, for a good home, for something that they value, we'll continue to take care of it. Pretty much we take inquiries anytime, and then we review them as a staff and board of directors and ensure that it aligns with our mission.
Sure.
And that we can do something that's respectful, of the property that's being entrusted to us. So we're always happy to intake new items or automobiles or aircraft if it's the right, like I said, it aligns with what we do.
So if anyone's thinking like, okay, maybe I've got something that's like in a garage or something, what would you say is, when you're kind of describing it to someone about how it would align with it, is there kind of like specific guidelines, hard and fast rules, or just kind of general concepts that then lead to discussions about it, or how do you kind of describe that?
Yeah, definitely. So it's more of a generalized concept like you mentioned. So, we like to say we have various eras, so Korean era, World War II, and if it doesn't align with that, then it's some of our certain exhibits like the women in aviation or certain groups or forces that were put together. So, like I said, it just depends. It should generally fall in line to something that's currently already there. That would be the best way to put it.
Yeah, expanding kind of current exhibits or being in line with them in kind of a general way. But like I said, it then leads to a discussion, right?
Well, one of the things that I've observed, if the item tells a story or fits in a storyline of what we have, then it goes right in place. If it's just an item and you go, well, I don't know what this is, and you don't know what this is, it's kind of hard to display it. But if it tells a story, we've had some donations that just told stories right off the bat. Yeah,
an important part of that is the provenance, which is the museum term for it, but we definitely like to accept items that have the story. Whoever's bringing it, knows the lineage of it. If it wasn't theirs, who it belonged to, a grandfather or a friend or somebody. So the provenance is really important for us to know, to be able to tell that story.
Yeah, where it came from, what the story is behind it. Documentation is great. I'm sure that those are always valuable and accepted in their own right here. So, of course, there's a lot going on out there, and you all are continuing to focus on efforts. So, the summer camp, among other things, being a newish effort in the last couple of years, this being the second year of it here, I'm sure that just as you were mentioning, the leadership changes and the things that you're continuing to focus on, where do you feel that is leading you? This kind of renewed focus, this kind of continued focus, and what you all are interested in seeing and having out there at the museum.
Definitely. So I would say with our new leadership, we are a small staff. I do want to put that out in the forefront, and why our volunteer force is so important to us. At any given time, we have 20 to 40 volunteers that come out various times in the week, and without them, we couldn't do what we do. But with our staff, we really are trying to specialize in various areas. Before Dominique, we didn't really have a marketing director, so we were very weak on, in terms of social media, putting ourselves out there, our brochures, lots of things were outdated, even our website. So, with her coming on and this leadership staff, we've taken a lot of large and necessary steps to put ourselves out there, and, we're just right at the tip of what's possible, and we're looking forward to bringing more people into the fold of what we do, growing as a team, growing as a museum, And like I mentioned, just modernizing, like you said, the aircraft, nothing's going to change about them, but how we focus on them and how we tell the story truly is going to change. There's a museum fact out there that says you have about 10 seconds to capture the attention of somebody when it comes to reading something. And, we really have to capitalize on that, especially with children, and ensuring that everyone walks away, knowing that the museum was an important piece for them to learn something, and for them to tell other people to come and experience exactly what they did.
Absolutely. Anything you'd like to add, Dominique?
Just to piggyback off of that, it's definitely our primary focus is learning and helping, ensure growth, but also we really want to help make an impact within the community, because we do believe it's a huge highlight that people don't really know is available to them. And we want you to come and learn, yes, but also we want you to come and then want to come back. So come and learn and experience the museum, but also feel so welcomed and so invited that you want to come back to the next event. You do want to sign up for one of our great membership programs. And, you do want to bring your kids to summer camp because you've already come 3 times this year and every experience was amazing. So that is our goal as a team. It's more of a family engagement type of community thing rather than just we went, we saw, we're done.
Absolutely. And so, then particularly from the volunteer aspect, then, Elliott, what would you say to someone who's considering being involved with it or wanting to consider being involved in it? What would you say to them?
Well, for me, it's great fun. I enjoy interacting with our guests coming in and find out why they're there and what their connections are. Within the Dolsons that we have, it's kind of interesting. Pick a Dolson, walk around with him, then leave and come back another time and do another Dolson, because we all have different stories.
Sure.
And so is what we're reflecting on, and each one. I mean, Mario's great, Gus is great. They just all have different backgrounds and different histories.
Absolutely.
And I'd love to add on to that we're a great home for anybody, but we definitely have a way to interest people who are former military members, anybody has an aviation background, but we love, having anybody that wants to work and help and have an impact in a cool environment. So we are open to, for anybody that wants to come out and hang out and help out.
One last question that I have to ask, and I would be remiss to, because if only in deference to the shirt that people on radio can't see, you got the Talk to Me Goose shirt on there. Given that there has been, the previous Top Gun was, an aviation moment on its own right, but of course, given the, smash success of the most recent, Top Gun movie, have you noticed like any change in the way people have been approaching the idea of aviation, particularly since you got that representation? You've got that T-51 out there that was that airframe featured at the beginning and end of that most recent movie. Has there been any almost change in the way people are interacting or seeking out this kind of thing, just even societally?
Oh yeah, we've seen people come in and you guys have the plane, right? And so they walk in the door and then they walk through the hangar, because you have to walk through the gift shop to get to the hangar.
Sure.
And then they walk in the plane's there, and they want, the patches, they want anything that's associated with Top Gun. And it's a great movie,
Sure.
But it ignited so much interest in society in regards to aviation, and people love to see the plane there. So yes, lots of people come in looking for the plane.
Very interesting. So hopefully that focus will be continuing on, because there's a lot of interesting things to see out there. So, well, again, that right there, Dominique Clark, Marketing Director, also, again, Vanessa Martinez, Executive Director, and Elliott Werner, Docent and Volunteer with War Eagles Air Museum. Thank you all very much for talking with us about the many things you all have going on, the features, exhibits, and what you all are working on for the future of the museum here today.
Thank you for having us on. We really appreciate it. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Absolutely happy to have you on, and thank you all very much for having joined us here for the El Paso History Radio Show. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. We'll be back next Saturday with more, as we do it every 10 to noon every weekend on Saturday. So thank you all very much for joining us. We'll see you all next week. Have a great one.